Now on full fashion, photography and a cracking competition. So sign on.
Hello, and welcome to Sign On at Leisure. Those photos you've just seen were from an exhibition at the British Deaf Association's conference in Leeds. They were taken by a young deaf photographer, Emma Amsden, to celebrate European Year of Older People. In last week's programme, we looked at older people's lives and their desires. In this week's programme, we look at the work of the well-known deaf photographer, John Dalton. After we'd made this fascinating film, John sadly died on September the 27th at the age of 80. His family have kindly agreed to us showing this film profile as a tribute to his beautiful work and the contribution he made as a deaf person. How long have you been in the Photographic Society?
I joined 40 years ago. I like that one.
It's lovely. How did you know this was here?
It's just across the road from the Deaf Club. I saw it and I wanted to join.
You say you've been a member for 40 years. How old were you when you first became interested in photography?
I was 8 years old and I started with a box Brownie. That's how I became interested.
I see. And from that to this. Well. I see that most of your photographs were taken abroad. Can you tell us about your travels?
I've flown to Poland. That was really interesting. I felt really sorry for the Polish people though. They were oppressed. What with the war and the Russian invasion and everything. But the photos I took of the houses came out well. Then I went to Russia and France and so on.
And have you had any funny experiences abroad?
There was one funny story from Moscow. I was out with some deaf friends, drinking and chatting, and I slipped away on my own. Now, I had forgotten to bring my tripod. I had my camera, and I wanted to take a photograph of St. Basil's Cathedral. And I couldn't hold the camera steady. I needed a tripod or something. Anyway, there was this lamppost. But I knew you weren't allowed to climb it. And the next thing, there were flashing lights and a police car screeched to a halt beside me. I just stood there. And then in sign language I explained I wanted to take a photo, but my camera wasn't steady. So I wanted to climb the lamppost and use it as a tripod. To my amazement, the policeman smiled and said, "Yes, go on," and drove off. He said yes, so I climbed the lamppost and took my photo.
Great.
When I first joined the club, it was very difficult for me to follow everything, just lip reading. I was lucky. They had demonstrations, and I could follow them and learn things, like retouching, a simple process. You could get the information from books, but I could pick it up more easily from the demonstrations. I went to town and I saw this form from the YMCA, wanting photographs to be sent abroad to the soldiers, the airmen and the sailors. And they would send you free films. Now they were hard to come by in wartime. So I sent away and received a form and some slips with the addresses of parents, families and children. I took the photos, developed and printed them and sent them off free. And the soldiers were very pleased with them. I received a lot of letters, quite a stack, saying how pleased they were to see photos of children they'd left as babies, who were now 2 or 3, and how they'd grown. It was interesting, you know. They kept the photos in their inside jacket pockets. Some of them were killed, and some of them survived. It made me happy to do it. I couldn't be a soldier because of my deafness. That was my war effort. This is a photo of my daughter, Julie. We used to love walking in the country. And when I printed it, I thought it was a lovely photo, a good one. When I showed it to the older members, they didn't like it. They said it should have a castle or something on the horizon. And I was very disappointed. But 2 years later, I showed the very same photograph to the younger members. And they liked it. They said, "Why don't you try for your LRPS with it?" And it passed. It was 6 o'clock. This photograph, it's called The Fisherman. It was taken at 6 o'clock in the morning. We'd all been waiting to board our coach, and everyone was on board except me. But I wanted to take this photograph, and they were all waiting for me. I took a few shots, but I was a bit worried, because it was quite a distance, and I didn't have my telephoto lens. But I knew in my dark room, if I used the overhead light and cleared some floor space, I could enlarge it there. It's won a lot. This was the Trooping of the Colour. It came first in the monthly competition here. So I kept it, because the monthly competition led to the annual competition for the best from 3 categories. So altogether, there are 12 times 3, 36 prints in the finals. It got down to the last 2. The judges couldn't decide, and I was nervous, hoping mine was going to win, as it had before. But it lost. I couldn't believe it. Someone had won with a black and white. I was very disappointed. So I asked the judges why it had failed. I couldn't believe it. I completely missed it. They said the plume of the helmet wasn't straight. It was at a slight angle. Well, I thought I printed it straight, but it was a bit off centre, and it lost. Oh, I was disappointed. This photograph was taken on black and white negative, but printed on colour paper, and it got this red effect. I took a colour photograph of the statue of Lourdes and superimposed the two to get this colour print. It's collected a lot of labels, which I've stuck on the back. It's been accepted in exhibitions all over.
John was aware that we were to show that film today. When working with him, the film crew and production team were impressed by his skill and ability, his generous nature, and the kindly patience he showed to us. His pride in his work was of an artist who felt that he had attempted his best and was pleased with the results, and if other people felt the same way, he was grateful for that acknowledgement. Join us again in a few minutes. Welcome back. People have many different hobbies and interests. Most of us take up something at some time, only to abandon it later. Claire recently visited Doug Oaten of Luton, who took up his hobby as a young boy, stopped for some time, and then took it up again. And when Death Hour went to film him, they found him still pursuing it at the age of 67. Here's their film. Tell us how you became so fascinated with machine knitting.
Well, at a time when my two children and I were hard up, I'd seen an advert in the paper. So I went along to a shop to see about a machine. And when I saw it, I bought it. The machine was a plain knitter, nothing like this, just plain. And from buying that machine was how it all began. Well, about 2 years ago, I bought a magazine, and I saw something that was really interesting in it. I'll show you. This here. Then, I didn't have a computer, so I had to go and buy a new computer so that I could send off and buy Designer Knit. I sent away for it, and when I got it, I didn't know enough about computers, so my son came to help me out. It was fascinating, really good, so the more I tried, the more I learned, so that now I can just knit away. From here, You start with the shape. Standard. And here you have a number of options. Shirt, cardigan, sweater, waistcoat. And here I've chosen sweater. Now, first, yes. Size 44. And next, for the chest, I'll put 112. And now that's finished. Now, the neck here is too wide. I'll make it narrower, to 18. That's about right. In the middle. Okay? Now. There you are.
Excellent. That's something different, isn't it? Were they all deaf? Yes? So where's your jumper then? Oh, it's too hot to wear it under these studio lights. After their successful show at Derby Deaf Festival, the deaf comedians are going on tour. One of their performances will be at the Battersea Arts Centre in London on Friday the 26th of November, as part of the Wandsworth 93 Disability Arts Festival. The deaf comedians' new revamped show, Deaf World, gives you an opportunity to enjoy their inimitable deaf comic style. Watch the diary later for details of the tour, whilst for this event, contact John Wilson, Shape London, 1 Thorpe Close, London W10 5XL. Minicom 081 964 1957. Show of Hands, a professional company of 8 signing and speaking actors, are currently touring the country with their production of Twelfth Night. We asked a deaf person to watch the production and tell us what they thought. They said, although well crafted and directed, only the 2 BSL deaf actors showed how sign language should work on stage. The rest of the cast struggled to be convincing with a mixture of SSE, BSL and exaggerated lip speaking. A good production, more suited to keen theatre-goers than the general deaf audience. Why not judge these productions for yourselves? Here's the diary with details. Our diary always shows a lot of dates from theatres nationwide, and whilst the number of interpreted performances increases, there has been some criticism of the quality on offer. Recently, we asked one of our deaf viewers to visit the production of Julius Caesar at the Bloomsbury Theatre in London. This was their verdict. They said that when they arrived at the theatre, little provision seemed to have been made for deaf patrons. The allocated seating was badly positioned for watching the interpreter, and the choice of play was not ideal, a lot of complicated dialogue with little action. Although the interpreter did his best, considering the circumstances, our deaf reviewer didn't get a clear idea of what the play was about, got bored and fell asleep midway. Eventually they left early, failing to understand how it could appeal to deaf people. There was only one other deaf person in the audience. Unfortunately, not a very complimentary review. We asked the theatre about it. To be fair, the theatre received the criticism with interest and admitted the choice of play was wrong. They'll be trying a comedy next time, and I hope that'll be better. They said they would look into their seating arrangements and thanked us for the feedback, which will help them to improve their service. So if you're unhappy about the service you receive, please tell the theatre. There's no way it'll improve if you don't. We'll be keeping an eye on theatres and asking more deaf people to review productions in the future. There's some good news on subtitling. This month, Sky TV launched a subtitling service on films shown on 2 of its channels, Sky Movies and the Movie Channel. They're aiming to subtitle over 100 films in the next 12 months. I watched an example with some other deaf people, and I really enjoyed having access to one of the latest releases. But if you want that service at home, I'm afraid you'll have to buy a satellite dish with receiver and a decoder and subscribe to the channels to get these subtitles through teletext. So it could prove expensive for just 100 films, but in time they are hoping to develop their subtitling service, so it might be worth the investment. Last month, we had a competition to win a National Captioning Institute video decoder. The question was, who was the American deaf actress who won an Oscar for her role in the film Children of a Lesser God? Thank you for all your entries, but it wasn't Elizabeth Quinn, nor Whoopi Goldberg. The answer was Marlee Maitland. And the winner is Mrs. Brown from North Shields. Your decoder is in the post. We hope you enjoy it. Now, this month's competition question. What are the titles of the 4 monthly sign-on programs? What are the titles of the 4 monthly sign-on programs? Answers on a postcard to this address. To be received by November the 5th. Sign on. Tyne Tees Television. City Road. Newcastle upon Tyne. NE1 2AL. This is your second chance to win a decoder, so best of luck. We'll have another competition on next month's sign-on at leisure. Next week, Tessa Padden and Paul Redfern will be bringing us up to date with the Sign On Newswatch programme. Bye!